little bit towards you? Okay.
Good morning. Welcome to this historic Super Bowl 50. Today we are pleased to share with you several important developments in the NFL's efforts to fight criminal enterprises that are preying on the NFL fans and their enthusiasm for the game by trafficking in counterfeit merchandise and tickets. We are fortunate to again have the support of both federal and state law enforcement agencies in the Bay Area and across the country. Joining me today to speak about a nationwide law enforcement effort to disrupt the sale of counterfeit NFL merchandise and tickets is Director Sarah Saldana of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. We are also proud to recognize the significant efforts of those here on the stage. San Francisco Director of Field Operations Brian Humphrey from Customs and Border Protection, Chief of Police Mike Sellers from the Santa Clara Police Department, and the police departments of San Francisco, San Jose, and Oakland, and all of the enforcement agents and officers under their respective commands. Our message to NFL fans today is simple. Watch out for criminals who are looking to scam consumers and illegally profit off the popularity of the NFL, your home team, and the Super Bowl. These crimes don't only rip off the fans, but also the local businesses, the legitimate retailers, and the licensees who support the local economy and play by the rules. Over the last several decades, and of course leading up to this Super Bowl 50, the NFL has worked to protect its fans from the sale of counterfeit merchandise through civil enforcement efforts and through close collaboration with law enforcement. Fans are often duped into buying counterfeit merchandise not only through brick and mortar locations, but online as well. Every year we receive emails and calls from fans telling us about counterfeit site operators who have taken their money, delivered cheap imitation goods or no goods at all, and put their financial information at risk. Since January 2015 alone, the NFL has seized over 1,300 websites selling counterfeit NFL merchandise. In fact, over the past 3 years, the NFL's civil enforcement efforts have resulted in the disruption of more than 10,000 such counterfeit websites. This year, the NFL also renewed its extended partnership with OPSEC Security, ensuring that all NFL or club licensed products will carry the NFL hologram label, so consumers can continue to rely on these hallmarks of authenticity at the point of sale. But with the enthusiasm and excitement building this week ahead of Sunday's game, we also want to warn fans to be careful of con artists who are peddling counterfeit Super Bowl tickets. Every year we see fans who arrive at the stadium on game day only to be turned away at the gate having bought counterfeit tickets. The quality of counterfeit tickets may be sophisticated, but no matter how real a ticket may look, a fake ticket will not get you into the stadium on game day. The only way to ensure you're buying the real thing is to buy tickets from reliable sources like NFL Ticket Exchange or authorized ticket retailers. We strongly discourage fans from buying tickets from any suspicious sources. Even if a ticket looks real, it could have been reported lost or stolen, which means the person holding it may not be granted entry into the stadium. In order to curtail criminals' ability to create these fake tickets, the NFL has implemented a number of special security features in every Super Bowl ticket. I'll mention a few of these here, and my colleagues and I can provide further details after the presentation. As you can see, the front of the ticket includes a full graphic background with a raised metallic appearance. Importantly, though, on the back of each ticket is a true color OPSEC hologram, this year with the skyline of downtown San Francisco, the Gold 50, and the commemorative Duke football. And then a feature that often gets the most attention and which we can demonstrate for you after this presentation. Thermochromatic ink is used on the graphic on the lower part of the ticket back. The Super Bowl 50 logo will fade when heat is applied and will reappear when the heat source is removed. Finally, the NFL recognizes that consumer education and outreach are key elements in any anti-counterfeiting strategy. Last year, the league produced its own public service announcement, a 30-second video spot to raise awareness on the harms of intellectual property theft. This year, the NFL partnered with the Intellectual Property Rights Center under the Department of Homeland Security. to include a call to action screen where fans can learn more about consumer protection issues and report incidents of counterfeiting directly to law enforcement. This joint PSA is running online and in stadium. We're going to show that PSA on the screen for you now.
She thought she was supporting the Buccaneers, not Pirates. They're supporting thieves, not the Steelers. They're not supporting the Ravens, Eagles, Falcons, or Seahawks. They're supporting vultures.
Counterfeit gear doesn't support your team and often supports criminal enterprises. So make sure your gear is authentic NFL gear.
Buy authentic NFL gear.
On that note, I'm going to turn the microphone over to Director Saldana.
Thank you, and good morning, everybody. Thanks so much for being here to cover really what's a very important issue this time every year and with every major sporting event. We are so fortunate to have women and men from certainly local law enforcement, from our sister agency, Customs and Border Protection, and from my agency, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, who are out there every day, not just in connection with this event, but out there every day to try to ensure that our laws with respect to authenticity in merchandise, all kinds of sports merchandise and paraphernalia is preserved, and that we do not have, as Michael Irvin from, let me repeat, the Dallas Cowboys football club. I noticed that there's a jersey here with the number 88. I'm surprised he held up the number 88 for Des Bryant as opposed to his own number 88. But that we have that kind of authenticity preserved because there is no fooling around about this, truly. This is not a victimless crime. This affects the American economy. Thus, it affects the American worker, and it affects the safety and the hard-earned dollars of the American public. So this is serious business. We've got kickoff about little less than 72 hours away, so I want to take this opportunity to announce the results thus far of our ongoing ICE Homeland Security Investigations operation known as Team Player. As of today, really, we have seized over 440,000 items from the beginning of the operation after the first day after last Super Bowl up to now. Quite frankly, actually, we have locally, even just this past week, an additional 49 seizures of over 12,000 items with a market sales price of almost $470,000. So every day, and I presume and assume that the activity will just pick up even more as we get closer to the Super Bowl. In addition to these seizures, law enforcement officers have made 41 arrests in relation to Operation Team Player. More importantly, as far as I'm concerned, having been a former prosecutor, we've had over 30 convictions with serious terms of imprisonment with respect to people who engage in this activity. So this is serious business, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm here to make that point in particular. This operation begins at the right before. Right after, actually, the Super Bowl for the entire year. But as I said, it's not just with respect to the NFL and the Super Bowl, but to very many special events throughout the year. And every day, you've got international smuggling organizations that are trying to bring this fake merchandise into the country. That's where the IPR Center, the Intellectual Property Rights Center, that is housed there in the Washington, D.C. area, comes to bear, and it stands out at the forefront of our enforcement efforts and our response to global intellectual property theft. This is a global problem. Throughout the year, authorities have identified warehouses, flea markets, you've seen them yourselves, I think, online vendors and street vendors selling counterfeit game-related sportswear and tickets throughout the country. Many of those items that you see here on display, many more in warehouses being held as evidence against the people that are perpetrating these crimes. Fake jerseys, ball caps, T-shirts, you see examples of all of that here, and I am very proud of our partnership with Postal, the United States Postal Service investigators, because you have a lot of this merchandise that's simply put in the mails. With respect to CBP, as I mentioned earlier, and certainly the Santa Clara Police Department and sheriff's offices and police departments across the country. So make no mistake, this is serious business. It is not a victimless crime. As Michael Irvin mentioned in the clip, truly, folks, and the investigators see this every day, these proceeds are very often, probably more often than not, used in connection with other crime, down to and including terrorist activity. We have seen it. We have seen it, and I urge the American public not to participate in the purchase of these items. The illegal manufacture and sale of counterfeit goods represent predatory practices that endanger, as I mentioned earlier, not only the companies involved in the production of this, but the companies are made up of American workers. Special agents from ICE, HSI, which is Homeland Security Investigations, and officers with U.S. Customs and Border Protection, again, have worked very diligently over this past year. We're very proud of the results. The jury is still out. We still have activity going on, unfortunately, and we're still out in the streets working these cases. And I want to repeat and make clear, this is what our law enforcement does every day of the year in connection with this activity. I want to just recognize our people at Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Would you all stand up real quickly and wave to me? Wave to me. Come on, guys. They're very shy, these law enforcement officers. And let's have CBP and anybody else from local law enforcement stand up as well, because I want to tip my hat to you for the incredible work you do every day of the year. Thank you very much.
Good morning. My name is Brian Humphrey. I'm the Director of Field Operations for the San Francisco and Portland field offices. First, let me say on behalf of the men and women of CBP that protect this part of the U.S. border every day, we are proud to be here in partnership with our investigative partners, our state and local law enforcement partners. CBP and the Legacy Customs Service have been involved in the protection of international trade for 226 years now. My sisters will tell you I know that because I was here on opening day in 1789, but I can assure you that's not true. Last year, as a result of CBP's enforcement efforts that were followed up with investigations by Homeland Security Investigations or other state and local partners, resulted in 28,000 seizures of IPR violative merchandise with a manufacturer's suggested retail price in excess of 1.3 billion US dollars. That's a lot of violative merchandise. You know, people wonder, what's the big deal? Well, the big deal is several things. You certainly may be an innocent purchaser on the street, not realizing that you are helping further profits to potential criminal organizations. You're potentially cheating a company, individuals out of jobs, time that it took to invest in their product, invent the products. And with certain merchandise, there are also safety concerns that go with it, right? You have electrical products that are IPR violative, could result in fire hazards. So there are a number of problems, not to mention the fact that because it's not genuine merchandise, in this case genuine NFL merchandise, that jersey probably won't last very long. In preparation for Super Bowl 50, in addition to the operation mentioned by the ICE director, CBP and Homeland Security Investigations locally have been involved in Operation Superfake 2. That was a two-part organization. The first week was run here in San Francisco at the International Mail Division, where we had seizures of IPR violative products totaling approximately 432,000 US dollars. The vast majority of that turned out to, as we targeted and found, to be counterfeit footwear. So that's incredibly important to get that off the street. Fortunately, we are well positioned here in CBP San Francisco because we wear the dual hat of being a center for excellence and expertise, specializing in apparel, footwear, and textiles. So we have additional expertise focusing on those particular areas, which happen to be, fortunately, the product lines that are typically compromised for events like this. The second prong of Operation Superfake 2 is currently underway. I won't mention the location for obvious reasons. We don't want the bad guys to change their shipping patterns. The first week was already conducted. We're wrapping up the second week. So far, results have been very promising. In excess of $2.1 million in violated products were seized. Specific to NFL merchandise, because that's obviously a specific concern for this event. Last year, CBP's enforcement efforts, NFL-specific, NFL infringing products were $8.7 million US dollars. Fortunately, I'm happy to report that we are on pace just through the first 4 months of this year, have already exceeded that level. So I think our enforcement efforts are working at the border, where we target through the initial seizures and the initial arrests that take place, and then partner with our investigative partners in HSI and our state and local friends that then prosecute the cases moving forward. So it's truly a team effort. Interdiction, investigation, wrap it up, protect the American economy. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you, everyone. Today, we're going to take a few questions from the crowd, if there are any.
Well, they're from all over the world. Probably the most serious offender at the current time is China. I don't have that in front of me. If we're able to get our hands on it, we'll certainly provide it to you before this concludes.
When you look at the sport event, the Final Four, the Super Bowl, the NBA championship, whatever, how big is the Super Bowl just in terms of percentages of fake merchandise? Is it like way beyond all the other sports? Or?
You know, I don't have that precise comparison, but if you just put a value dollar to the gross proceeds from the events, I presume that the criminal activity would follow the money, right? So that the NFL is probably comprises a very large part of that compared to the other events.
You mentioned that you've seen this fund terrorist activity. Can you describe what you mean by that? How and what?
I can't say anything in great detail. I'm just telling you that based on intelligence we follow, investigations we've been engaged in, that we know that often this money ends up either directly or ultimately indirectly through distributors into the hands of people engaged in activity that intends to do harm to the United States based on terrorist activity. I really can't get into further detail.
Does that mean there's an arm of terrorism that creates fake merchandise to help fund greater events?
Not necessarily. That's not what I'm saying, and I just want to be clear about that. I'm talking about terrorists are not beyond just about any activity in order to raise money in order to fund their interests. And we have seen, as I say, not only directly but indirectly, that these funds end up in the hands of people who intend to do harm to our country.
What's the best way for fans to ensure that they're buying legitimate Super Bowl tickets and not counterfeit tickets?
So we are encouraging fans to shop smart, purchase from authorized ticket retailers, including NFL Ticket Exchange, and protect yourself. You know, obviously all cash transactions are incredibly risky, so we're really encouraging them to not buy from any suspicious sources. We'll take one more question, and then we're going to do one-on-ones afterwards.
What do you do with all this stuff once you seize it?
Well, from my perspective is we put it to very good use. It's evidence in a case, either that the individual ends up pleading, or we go to court and produce it against those individuals and organizations that are involved.
From the NFL's perspective, we often donate much of the seized merchandise.
Good point. I was going to say that.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for coming today. We're going to do some one-on-ones. Thank you.